Hello, welcome to the Heirs Book Club. My name is Renee. I am your host for this evening. We are currently reading The 9 to 5 Millionaire by Jamal King. Tonight we will be covering chapters 9 and 10. I tell you, I'm really enjoying this book. And so there's a couple of things, points that I would like to pull out. But what I'm going to do first this evening is go ahead and play chapter 9, and then we'll get into highlight some of the points. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. I'm going to share my screen here.
Determines your level of success. Man, thinking back on my first visit to Baltimore, man, it always brings me to a place of being grateful. When we pulled up in my 1993 Chevy Blazer, I couldn't even fathom how to feel to live the same way. I just knew I had to do it. But now, it's crazy to even think about it. Man, I'm telling you, I live in a similar neighborhood. I live in a house that's even twice the size of the houses I seen back then. Driving cars that's just as nice as the ones I saw that day. I'm even able to serve my family in the same capacity that I saw my friend doing for his family. Man, crazy part about it is that those kids that I saw with the plaid outfits, man, my kids even wear those same plaid outfits going to their private school. My family literally has everything we saw and experienced on that trip ×2. And we built it all while I stayed as a police officer. Now, I know my journey isn't conventional. It's not even expected. But I need you to remember that everything I did for my family, you can do for your own family too. Now, believe it or not, I'm not a genius that knows all of the right decisions to make. I have to study just like you. I have to try and fail just like you. The only difference is that I'm crazy enough to keep trying though. My life is the fruit of consistency, perseverance, and dedication. I was consistently trying. I persevered through the turmoil I had to face as a new entrepreneur. I was dedicated to my destination and not just to the vehicles getting me there. Somebody needs to really hear that. I was dedicated to my destination and not just to the vehicles that's ultimately going to get me there. All of those things are subjective decisions. No one can teach you how to become more consistent. Only you can make that decision for yourself. Again, exposure is the fuel that allows you to avoid burning yourself out from all of the mental work that comes along with building your dreams. Brick by brick, you're laying your foundation. And anytime you feel like you don't have the strength to lay another brick down, expose yourself to something that will remind you of what you're building and why you're making it. I intentionally decided to visit my friend at least 4 times a year for that reason, that very same reason. You can say it was something like once a quarter, but we would mainly go during his off season because it wasn't about watching a football game for us. We was way past that. It was about getting exposed to a whole new world. It was a trip we took seriously. We couldn't let ourselves slip back into the old habits by forgetting the things we had experienced in Baltimore. Nah, we knew that as long as we could hold on to the feeling we got while visiting, it would help keep us pushing forward. Even after he was traded to the Atlanta Falcons, we'd still make sure we come out and visit. Every time we find ways to add new value also. We never wanted to feel like burdens while we were in town. We had a mission. I studied how my guy would conduct his days and what areas did he have total control in where I needed to become more disciplined. How did he handle the pressure of his career? Did he even feel pressure? How did they handle family matters? What were the things that money solved that I wasn't even aware of? How did they protect their income? We never drove 11 hours just to kick it, like some of y'all might think. I treated the same way someone would treat studying abroad or taking on an internship. I was there for class and eager to learn. The fact that we were even able to see this as an opportunity was special back then. I mean, because none of us were NFL players except for him. But yet we didn't have to just study other successful police officers to make it now. We can learn from anyone modeling this type of success we wish for ourselves. The more we studied people outside of our professions, the more insight we got on what it meant to make it out. There were certain principles that they all considered valid. The most important was time. So when I understood the importance of routine again, it introduced me to the concept of the whole. You see, as an officer, there are certain parts during our day that we call the whole, right? It means you're on duty, but there's nothing really to address. Like it's just downtime. In the beginning, we would just park next to each other and talk for hours. Remember, we would just kill time. We talk about sports, share stories, and complain about the job. It was a moment to decompress with each other while on the job. I willingly went along with all of this up until Baltimore. But afterwards, I just couldn't waste my time like that anymore. Instead of just kicking it with the other officers, I decided to use that time to study other streams of income, reading books, and looking for Milliyonare's first house, a moment that would change the course of our lives. You see, let me tell you what the whole is. See, when a police officer kind of have downtime and it's really nothing to do, meaning that the radio is just quiet, there's no activity going on. Police officers will go to like a quiet spot. It's like a spot where that's away from the public's eye, right? All of the officers will get together, and during this time, you might go to Dunkin' Donuts and get some coffee, eat donuts, talk about things that's happening in the city, or talk about, complain about the job, or just sit around and talk about movies that you've seen. I mean, every single day, officers like to say they get together to kill time. But see, what actually happens during this time in the hole is that what you're really doing is killing your future. For years, I willingly went along with all of this wasted time in the hole up until my Baltimore trip. But afterwards, I just couldn't waste my time like that anymore. I understood now what 1%ers believe, that time is your greatest asset. So instead of just kicking it with the other officers, I decided to use that time to study other streams of income with reading other books and looking for Milliyonare's first house, a moment that will change the course of our lives forever. 77 visits. When Camilla and I were getting ready to purchase a home, we were connected with April. She was and still is one of the best real estate brokers in the game. That's why I've continued to work with April for over 20 years. April made sure we made the best real estate decisions for our circumstances. Initially, we were looking for a home to live the American dream. The big 3-bedroom house with the white picket fence. But because of April's foresight, she knew that it would be far more beneficial for us to get an investment property first, then use the proceeds from that property to purchase our first home. I wouldn't have even thought about doing it in that order. Man, we were so brainwashed to the blue-collar way of thinking that investing sounded like something we should do after we got our cars and our homes. But April's simple advice completely shifted the trajectory of our lifestyle. It didn't take much to convince me that she was right. I decided to take immediate action by shifting my time during the hole again. Instead of reading or working out, I started visiting rental properties. And I wasn't looking based on my feelings either. I had set a goal in mind. We knew the home that we wanted to purchase would have about a $1,500 house note every month. So any property that couldn't profit a minimum of $1,500 was an immediate no. I had a purpose for every property that I was going to plan on purchasing. Someone else might have taken a property that would have brought a profit of $1,000 every month, $700 every month. And to be frank, that's not even a bad deal. But we knew what we were looking for and didn't plan on stopping until our entire checklist was checked off. Every single day, I was looking at different properties, going in to evaluate them myself, learning what was considered good and bad. Eventually, I became a king for assessing properties because I was physically visiting these locations while at work when there was nothing else to do. A lot of people at the time just thought that I was really into looking at abandoned buildings, right? After visiting 77 of these different properties in less than 2 months, we finally decided on our first investment property. Yes, you heard that right. In less than 60 days, I took myself to 77 different buildings to assess them while working my 9 to 5. I hope talking to you about the whole didn't make you think we weren't working the majority of our shift. Crime doesn't wait on convenience. But any moment I could get to another property in Chicago, I would drive over there and check on it. No questions. I wasn't trying to wait an entire year before getting started. I already had a broker that I trusted. She introduced me to an attorney, and the attorney introduced me to an accountant. Then I got connected with the contractor, and he helped me understand construction. It was as if the right people were popping up every time I took another step of action. Mainly, the people who were working with me helped me understand the real estate game. I was so focused on the end goal that I was trying to learn from all of them. I didn't care about being right. I wanted to be paid. So that meant learning from people about a new skill set and hearkening to their wisdom. Here's how badly Camille and I wanted this. The shootout happened in August. We had our first rental property in October. We weren't waiting on anything to change at the force. Visiting Baltimore was all I needed to realize I had to wake up. The investment property we got immediately started making us a profit. Let me break the numbers down to you. We purchased a 4-unit apartment building in Chicago. This building had 4 units in it, meaning that 4 different families was going to occupy this property. The property cost us $125,000. The bank would give us money to renovate this property. And so we needed $25,000 to do upgrades to the property. So the bank gave us the $25,000 to renovate this building. Our only responsibility was putting down 10% on the property. So we were into the overall loan for $150,000, and we had to bring $15,000 out of our pocket to the table. Now I know you're thinking, Jamal, where did you get $15,000 from while being a police officer? Man, I was doing whatever I had to do. So I saved a little bit of money. I went to Camille. She would give me one of her checks. I even would take my uniform allowance that the police department give new officers. They would give us a $5,000 uniform allowance to purchase new shoes, new duty belt, a bulletproof vest. I went to my father, my mother, my brother, and took all of their hand-me-downs, and I would use that so that I didn't have to spend that $5,000 on uniforms like other officers did. Instead, we would use this money to ensure that we had enough to purchase our first investment property. Let me tell you, these 4 units would bring in $1,000 a month in gross rents. The mortgage to the property was only $1,000. So that means that after I paid the mortgage, I would net $3,000 a month. Now at the time as a police officer, I was only making $1,200 every 2 weeks. So this was a game changer for us. Our system worked so well that we decided to leverage the money the property was making us and pour it back into getting another property. We refinanced the first building and pulled $80,000 line of credit. We continued to save the money we were netting from the first building, and we got ready to purchase our second property. I was doing this all before I had turned 23 years old. We were netting over $6,900 from our first 2 investment properties. Man, we was on our way to what I imagined for myself. Setbacks are setups. When we finally got our second building, we got a taste of how cruel the world could be. We had done everything according to the book, minded our business and everything else. But still, misfortune found its way to us. In the middle of our second property rehab, somebody broke in and stole all the copper piping and materials. Because I was new to real estate investing, I didn't have the right type of insurance policy which covered vandalism and theft. But Vince, being the friend he was, saw how important this property was for our future and my confidence. He decided to take a risk on me that would cost him dollars and earn him an even greater respect in my eyes. That one moment of Vince fronting me the money to keep pushing was a reminder to stay focused. So I did. After a little time and intentional saving, Camille and I started looking for our third property, which would be our official home. The difference between the picturesque and the expansive homes we were now looking at were astronomical. By only using my police salary, we were looking for homes that were 900 to 1,000 square feet. But using the money we were netting from our rental properties now, we were looking at 4,000 square foot homes on the average. That's over 4 times the size. Our season of sacrifice paid off in a way we didn't think would be possible in our 20s. Our commitment to getting the property changed our life quickly. The reason I keep writing, we is because I wasn't in the trenches alone. Camille was working as an assistant manager at Enterprise Rental Car, which was a job she got right out of college. She was the youngest assistant manager in the state. On a consistent basis, she would give me her entire check, sacrificing shopping and weekly beauty treatments. They didn't care about sharing that 93 Chevy Blazer with me either. I can remember family members and friends looking at her crazy for being okay with not being all done up at the time. People knew we had properties and assumed we were balling. Not to knock the income we were bringing in collectively, but it wasn't even a tenth of what I dreamed about at 8 years old. Her trust in me wasn't blind. She had watched me take all of my goals seriously since we were in high school. I had proven to her that my vision was worth trusting in. We moved as a team. Something I know helped me press forward during low moments. Both of us refrained from going out frequently, spending money on a whim, and anything else that could have stopped us from meeting our saving goals. We knew that if we could grind while we were young, we could spend the rest of our lives having a great time together. This was before the conferences, before having a network of solid people, before ETA. It was just her and I working together to build our dreams. Once I got a taste of what real estate could do when you add purpose to every property, I knew I had struck gold. So many people let their feelings dictate their purchasing decisions. They talk themselves right out of it by asking questions like, does this feel like the home for me? Do I like this property? An extra $900 does sound nice every month. I never wanted to make a decision that big based on how I felt. I didn't need intuition as a beginner. I needed facts and numbers that made sense. I finally found a vehicle that can get us to our destination faster. With the first building, we used my income and some of Camille's to purchase an income-generating asset. That way, my job could buy assets, and those assets could cover our liabilities. To keep it simple, an asset brings in money, while liability is something that'll cost you. If you do what the average person does, you'll always allow your job to cover your liabilities. The issue with forcing your job to simply pay your bills is you'll always have a debt to pay for, but you won't always want to work. It'll create a never-ending cycle of money coming in only to be lost to your mortgage, rent, electricity bills, daycare, and other liabilities. The income from your job was meant to purchase income-producing assets. Then you let those assets work for you to cover all of your liabilities. It's the quickest way to get out of the rat race. You don't have to be a millionaire to make decisions like this one. You just have to leverage your job to acquire assets. Then take the profits from your assets to cover your liabilities. That's what we did when we got our property. I like to say that we bought a building for every bill that we had and would have. Let me give you an example. The money from my job, I used that to purchase my first investment property. And then the money from the first investment property, we used that to purchase the second investment property. Then the net income from the second investment property, we used that to purchase our first home. You have to work your job to get as many income-producing assets as possible. My officer's salary never paid for our house bills. Our properties did that for us. All we had to do was know what we wanted so we could move accordingly. The investments I had at the time included being an officer, real estate, stocks. I took the knowledge I got from getting my securities and insurance certificates and learned how to invest. The profits I made from stocks were used to pour back into our buildings. I remember the first company I ever invested in was Krispy Kreme Donuts. It was at a time where the company was new to the stock market, and it ended up being a lucrative investment. The tip to invest in a company came from Camille listening to a few top managers at Enterprise. They were discussing how Krispy Kreme would be going public soon. I had 3 significant streams with smaller streams inside of them, which allowed me to amass wealth exponentially. $1 million by 26. I didn't change anything about my process in the beginning. We stuck to what we knew until we decided it was time to open up a business. Specifically, a line of child care centers. It was in 2006 that we started considering getting a bank loan to get the business started. I knew it was going to be an easy process, so I decided to go to the bank that was right across the street from the police station I worked at. When I called to see what I needed to bring, they introduced me to the term portfolio. Pretty much, portfolio is a folder that details every asset we had plus our liabilities. I've never done it before, so I called April to help me put the value of our assets together. And once we completed it, I took a visit to the bank. I arrived at what was called the Sale Bank at the time, which is now known as Bank of America. Soon as I got off work, which was as soon as they opened in the morning, in my police uniform, run-down police shoes, and I stepped into Mr. Daryl Tucker's office. I sat down, wanting to get a business loan, tired from working a full shift. Eyes were heavy from the job, but full of hope from the conversation with Mr. Tucker. The entire conversation, he referred to me as Officer King. He was taking his time reading through the portfolio I had presented to him. He would take moments where he'd go from looking at the document to looking up at me. A few times before he said, Mr. King, now notice the change in title. I went from officer to Mr. I knew that was something that was either really great or really wrong. He completed his sentence by saying, Mr. King, you're a millionaire. I looked at him stunned. I had just turned 26 years old, and I had just clocked out of my morning shift on the job. Nothing about me looked like $1 million. Yet, my net worth had equated to 1.6 million. I will never forget that day. I had mud on my shoes. My uniform was dirty, and I was tired from being a full-time worker and an entrepreneur and a husband. I remember replying by saying, I'm a millionaire? I am? Now mind you, this is what I wanted for years. I've been dreaming about this ever since I was 8 years old. To think it would manifest itself before 30 without the NFL money. It wasn't something or someone could expect out of a black man from Chicago with blue collar roots. But I always had a feeling that it was supposed to be me. From the lifestyles of the rich and famous to DuckTales, I figured once I hit millionaire status, I'll be swimming in gold. He proceeded to teach me about net worth. The definition is your assets minus your liabilities. After he finished calculating my portfolio, he said, Mr. King, you have a $1.6 million net worth. I couldn't believe it because I was still a man in a uniform. Crazy part, I got denied the loan because we had no experience in daycares. Man, go figure. They argued that I couldn't get a loan without any relevant business experience. My rebuttal was that I couldn't get experience without you giving me the loan. But instead of begging, I went back to what I knew how to do best. I started buying up properties, fixing them up, and then selling them. Every time we sell a property, we'd use 50% to go towards renovating the daycare center and 50% towards reinvesting into another property to flip. We trusted our process to work in our favor. The greatest part about learning about my first million was that I wasn't chasing it. I couldn't even tell you my net worth at 24 or 25. I was so focused on purchasing assets that I've reached an 18-year-old goal without even knowing it. Once I learned how they calculated net worth, that's when I got strategic about my plans. At first, I just wanted a building for every bill. But now, I understood this country's system. I plan on utilizing it to the fullest. I knew that the average millionaire had 7 streams of income. So I didn't plan on stopping until I had 7 outside of my job. Every building and stock counted as one. And eventually, the daycare became a major source of income. I'll share that story in the upcoming chapter though. The main point is the level of focus I had. Even while discussing it with my parents, they weren't worried about my decision or new ventures. They knew, and Jamal was just being Jamal. I counted this as a blessing because I met people who come from families trying to hate on their aspirations. We were blue collar, but we weren't the kind of family to try to tear down one another. Our parents meant what they said when they encouraged us to be whatever we wanted to be, as long as we were committed to the goal. The hardest part was keeping my mind in shape. That's why the next pillar of this book is all about decision making. Some people consider it fluff, but I know it's an essential thing to study. Our minds and how we decide are the most excellent tools ever created. But like every tool, we have to learn how to use it efficiently, especially when you're dreaming larger than you've ever experienced. The culmination of having a wife that believed in me and a background that encouraged relentless work and a drive that wouldn't allow me to settle for second best brought me into millionaire status within 4 short but focused years. And if you ask me, if I genuinely believe you can do the same, my answer will always be a resounding yes. Chapter 10, right side of the menu. There's a saying that goes,
sorry about the phone ringing there. But just think about how you feel when you pull up your bank accounts and you have some unexpected money in your accounts, or your stocks have increased, your Bitcoin and your currency, digital currencies have increased, your real estate property values have gone up. It's such a exciting feeling. So I can only imagine how Jamal felt that day at the bank when he says, "You are a millionaire," like millionaire. You just, day in, day out, you're just putting in the work. You set your goals. You said that, I want to be at this amount by a certain age. And sometimes you get so engulfed in what you're doing that you're not paying attention to the actual growth that is taking place. So that's exciting. So a couple of things I want to point out from chapter 9. Just talking about preparation to build your dreams. And one of the things that really stood out is building a team. And so if you're going to get into real estate investing, you want to create a team. So here are just a few, not all, but here's a few key people that need to be on your team. One is a mortgage broker or someone at the bank that you have a relationship with, or someone that people that do hard money lending. So you definitely want to build relationships with people that can help you prepare and accomplish your dreams. The other person is a tax accountant, someone that can do your taxes, someone that is very well versed on handling an investor that has multiple properties. The other person is a property manager, someone that is going to take care of your properties for you, someone that would do a much better, of course you have your standards and your guidelines, but theirs are more stricter than yours. And they take on the responsibilities of dealing with the tenant, getting new tenants, the transitions of one tenant moving out and one tenant moving in. They handle evictions, they collect the rents and security deposits, late fees, pet fees, someone that's going to manage your property for you. The other one is an attorney. There are times where you do have to evict a tenant. And so you can evict a tenant without an attorney. These things you could do without forming a team. But I'm telling you, a good team is worth your hire. But again, you could do your own evictions, but I recommend an attorney on your team. Also, a realtor, someone that can find that you can write out the criteria that you're looking for in a property, the income that you're looking to generate from that property, and have a realtor that can go out and locate those properties for you. And last but not least is a bookkeeper. And I kind of said money keeper because this is the person that will keep you accountable to your goals. So, if you want to make sure that when you make an investment and you're pouring your money back in, just keeping an accurate record for you, someone that you come to say, hey, I'm thinking about getting a new Mercedes Benz, and they're looking at your books and saying, no, this is not the time. Someone that's going to help you after you made the money to keep it for as long as you need it. And most importantly, one of the most important team member that Jamal talked about, and before I say who that is, I want to also say that I took the time to research and find all of these people. They're also into real estate investing as well. So my accountant has properties, rental properties, or commercial properties. My broker, same thing. They all have, and even the realtor, even if the realtor doesn't have investment property, they have a list of investors that they take care of. And so I went out, interviewed at least 3 people in those categories until I found that person that met the criteria that I was looking for. And so that makes a big difference in your purchases. And, like Jamal said, that he learned so much from his team because, you're just starting out or you've bought a few. They help you, they give the perspective and cutting edge information to help you stay on top. So the different laws change, you know, criteria change, that they keep you abreast and keep you on top of that sort of thing. So that way you're not getting a letter in the mail or something that you didn't know. They keep you abreast. So that's why your team is so important to you. And then the other team mate that he talked about was his wife, his spouse. His spouse was on board working alongside him as they built wealth together as a family. I'm telling you, when they talk about the thing that is problems in relationships are spouses that are not on the same page. They have money issues. And so when you have someone on your team, a spouse on your team that is alongside you and you're building wealth, you're both putting in the work to build wealth. Like this book, The Millionaire Next Door, it talks about how the millionaires, they select their spouses. They're very picky about who they pick as their spouses, because while they're out building wealth, if the wife is a stay-at-home, I'm sorry, I have to sneeze. If she's a stay-at-home mother, that if he's out making the money, he brings it home, that she's not so quick to spend the money, that it's not being defeated, that they're on the same page of building wealth. And she makes sure that the money she uses wisdom with the money, is what I'm trying to say, or he uses wisdom. It could be the other way around. But you have to, if you have a spouse that is on board with building wealth and leaving a legacy, preparing a financial freedom future for the both of you, that you're both like, you don't have a saver and a spender, but you have a balanced relationship towards money, to whereas you're meeting your goals, you're sitting down, everyone's taking responsibilities for the part that they play in building wealth. That is such an awesome position to be in when you have your spouse online. So again, with your team, you can learn new skills. You can learn, they help you avoid the pitfalls in your journey on building wealth, because they're already doing it. They already have experienced certain things, and so they can help you along the way. And I know that when I get ready to purchase a new property, I run it through my team. Like, hey, you guys, I'm looking at this property. These are the numbers. I come and say, this is what I'm thinking about buying. And then I get their expertise, opinions, or the things I can do and can't do with that property. Because as you get into it, you can definitely do some unique deals. But again, you want to stay within the law. You want to stay where it's not going to hurt you down the road for taxes. You want to make sure that there's no lawsuits, that it's set up properly if you decide to put your properties under a business. So again, your team is very valuable to you. So I just want to point out some other things as well. And this is something that, I'm an investor. I invest in stocks, real estate. I invest in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. I buy gold and silver. I mean, there's a variety of things that I purchase, but in order to get to my destination, it's important to use strategy. One of the things that Jamal mentioned is that at the beginning, him and his wife bought a 4-unit. Of course, I'm not making any recommendation. This is strictly for educational purposes, just a conversation to help you think outside of the box. And so his realtor was like, okay, instead of buying a home to move into, think about getting your investment property first. And so that's what they did. And that's what I recommend when I mentor people and their first-time home buyer. I talk about buying their first 4-unit. I'm sorry. My allergies are acting up with the temperature change. So I feel like I need to sneeze. But anyway, if you're a first time buyer, you can move into one of the units and rent it out and let your tenants pay the expenses. From Jamal's example, he did move into it, but rented out all 4 units, which each unit generated $1,000. So let's look at the numbers. Let me see if I can use the whiteboard. I guess this is not the time to try to okay, there we go. Okay, so he bought a 4 unit. I'll try to do this and not be sloppy. Let's see if I can do a 4 better than that. Okay, a 4 unit. And he charged $1,000 per month per unit. So, and then even let's go back to the beginning. The property was $125,000. He needed $25,000 to rehab it. So he found a discounted property for $125,000. He needed $25,000 to bring it up to date, to rehab it, to add value to it. And then that came to $150,000. So he had to put 10% down. So generally when you're putting 10% down, like right now, I know that if you go through a traditional bank and get a traditional loan, it's either 20 or 25% down. So that if you're not going to move into it, but if you move into it and it's your first time home buyer, you can get it at the interest rate of a first time home buyer. So you could definitely get it cheaper than 10%. But Jamal didn't move into it, so he came up with a bigger down payment. So he put down the $15,000. I wish I could write a little better. Let's see. The property was $125,000. Sorry. Okay, $125. This looks like a little school age child writing on this. And then he needed $25,000 to rehab it and add value to it, which would then bring it up to $150,000. Okay, so then he had to pay 10% of that, that's where we get the $15,000 from for a down payment. Okay, so his tenants were all paying $1,000 a piece, so that was $4,000 a month minus the expenses. So his mortgage was $1,000. He collected $4,000, so $4,000 minus the $1,000. And so that brings us to $3,000 a month. So definitely you can get those types of rates on a 4 unit. And then he said he pulled out $80,000. So after he rehabbed it, now this is after repair value, the work is done. So he went in and added value. Then he went and was able to pull out 80,000. Now, out of the 80,000, he could go ahead and take that and purchase another property, but he can also take the 80,000 and take out his initial 15,000, get your money back from your investment. And so that left him with 65,000. So his first deal, he came in with 15,000 money in his pocket. Now he has 65,000 for his second deal. So he could take that 65,000 and find it and let that be 10% on another building, which could be much bigger than the 4-unit he has. So he can take that 65,000. He paid himself back the 15,000. Now he has 65,000. He can go in and find another property. And again, repeat the same process again. Find a property. He has a down payment. And find a discounted property. The bank will give you the money to rehab it. Again, he got his initial money back. So now he's investing off of money that he made. And so he doesn't have to, unless, I won't say he won't ever have to put money back in again. It just depends on, what's happening throughout the process. But at least now he has his 15,000 back. He has a nice little lump sum to move forward. And like he said, like as he was building and went and got the 4-unit, he was like, wow, this is how much money I made. Of course, that's going to excite you. Some people don't even make 65,000 in a year time. And so here you made it. And now you have money to invest. You can go buy a better quality property instead of looking at a discounted property, but you can definitely keep going. Now you have the money to keep going. Sorry, you guys, my allergies are acting up. So you see how the numbers are, and he could just keep going. He, may not have to put any more money in on the deal, got his money back, and that, excuse me, they call that infinite return on your investments. And so I hope this wasn't showing crazy numbers, but but yeah. So that's how he then became his own bank. He went to the bank to say, okay, the real estate works. He saw that worked. He repeated the process. It worked the exact same way again, because there's a formula, there's a strategy to this. And then he became his own bank. He went to the bank and said, hey, we want to, he started off buying, remember he said he bought some Krispy Kreme stocks, and they had just hit the market. So you're coming in the door at the beginning of a company making their stocks available to the public. And so if you, that's called an IPO, you can take a small investment and grow that quickly, depending on if that stock moves. And then he went into the real estate. That was flowing. He has tenants paying him. He's put, they now have extra money. Now they want to start a daycare. They go to the bank, and then the bank is like, well, you don't have enough experience. Congratulations, you're a millionaire, but you have no experience in a daycare. You got 65,000. You can start a daycare with that. So you see what I'm saying is that, you may go to the bank, of course, use other people's money as you're building. But at the end of the day, if you're getting no, then he found a way to make the money in his real estate investments. And then he was able to start his daycare. So, you can become your own bank. You can become your own bank. Now you could take the 65,000, say I'm in and I'm done. That's fine too. But you want to keep building whatever your goals are, whatever your freedom number is. You want to get to that point, go a little bit over extra, because just in case, tenants move out. And so things do happen, but at least you have coverage there. So I hope that was helpful. And we broke that down too, because I'm a visual person. So if once I see it, I'm like, okay. And the other thing is to know that if he could do it, if I could do it, you can do it. And so you don't have to sit back and, knock on the bank's door like, hey, can I borrow money to build this business or get this real estate? Or I'm not sure that they'll give you money, loan you money to buy stocks, but you just need that jump start into the business or real estate or investment, income producing assets that you're looking for. But if they tell you no, you can definitely, okay, start where you are, start small, find some discounted properties and turn that around. And just watch it grow, because it doesn't matter how fast you go. It doesn't matter how much, where you are and how much you make annually. It's all about what you do with what you bring in. And so I'm going to end that from now. So the next chapters will be 11 and 12. I'm not sure how many chapters are in here, but I think we have a few more to go. But so far, put in the comments how the book is, the different nuggets that you're walking away with. And I love to hear about it. And I'm going to say goodbye for now. See you in 2 weeks.